Well, I'm very excited to be joined by a friend of the program, the coach of champions from Daniel Cormier to Luke Rockhold to Cain Velasquez to Khabib, Islam, and even great fighters coming up like Umar Nurmagomedov just this past weekend. The one and only coach Javier Mendez takes a little bit of a rare break from going around the world to come back home and join us on Submission Radio. Javier, how's it feel to be have your boots back on the ground back in the US for a little bit?
A little bit jet lagged. I won't lie. It's kind of tough, especially for me since I have a hard time sleeping on the plane. So even with sleeping pills, I can't sleep more than maybe an hour tops. So it kind of sucks. And I got in last night, and I didn't get any sleep at all last night. So I'm functioning on more mental than I am anything physical.
Well, dude, I appreciate you joining me, man. That really means a lot to me. And I mean, you'd also kind of still be buzzing after that performance from Umar the other weekend, right? He put on an incredible fight with Cory Sandhagen. Got to get your reaction now that it's been a little bit of time since the fight has passed. How do you look back on that performance and that fight in general, man? It was super impressive.
Habib and I, right from the get go, we were working on him on the later rounds to get stronger. And I was, when we were sparring, I would go in the ring, and not the ring, the cage. I would go in the cage and I would tell him, okay, this is what the championship round looks like. This is where you put your head up. This is where you don't show any weakness, et cetera, et cetera. So I was doing that throughout this camp. And, it just come into play in the fight. And so I'm whispering in his ear, this is what a champion's about. This is what we're supposed to do. And he's more tired than you are. So I want you to push it this run. I want you to push more, et cetera, et cetera. So it worked. It worked like a charm. It wasn't one of those things where Habib and I just on the spur of the moment. No, 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 no. This has to be pre-planned beforehand in order for you to, to fight someone such a good fighter as Cory was. We had to make sure that we planned it beforehand, not spur of the moment type thing. This had to be planned beforehand because this was his first 5 rounder too. So and against such a high elite guy, it wasn't an easy task to do, but he did spectacular. As you notice, as the rounds going on, he got stronger. Where Cory normally gets stronger, Cory got weaker. We got stronger.
Yeah, like I was going to say, usually, you love to see an early finish like a knockout or a submission, but are you kind of proud of Umar for going in there with a complete veteran like Cory Sandhagen and being able to maintain for all those rounds? In a lot of ways, does that kind of impress you even more from this performance rather than if he just went out there and just finished him straight away?
This was extremely important for his career to be able to go 5 rounds, knowing he can go 5 rounds and push 5 rounds, because this was a big step for him in the right direction. So if we wouldn't have went 5 rounds, who knows if his mind would have been ready for what's coming. He's gonna have to be ready for a 5 round war. And Cory delivered, man. He delivered. He delivered. He delivered great takedown defense, and while on the ground, he delivered good defense there, and try to create some of his offense of his own. I mean, he's got great coaching. So it was one of those type of fights where we were never losing it, but we were never necessarily winning it by a landslide either. We had to be careful because things could have changed really quick with this fight.
Mm. And you were talking about what's coming up next. Obviously, now we've got Sean O'Malley versus Merab at the Sphere, right? UFC 306. And then Umar would be fighting the winner of that for the title. I got to get your early thoughts on this. Who do you actually think is going to be the champion when Umar steps across the octagon against them for this title shot?
It's hard to say, to be honest with you. I know who I want only because he's more popular and I want more bang for the buck. I want O'Malley for that reason. But in all fairness, Merab is such a tough competitor and he's such a genius at marketing himself. So who knows? Maybe if Merab wins and the kind of fashion that he'll do it and the kind of attention he'll do it with, he might become the bigger name at the end of the day. But I'm thinking it's still Sugar. I think he's the bigger bang for us. But do I think he's going to win? No, I do not. I do not. I don't know who's going to win that fight. That's a tough fight to call. It's based, like I said before, based on who can control what area they're better than the other one at. And so basically, you already know Marab's a better ground guy, got better cardio. So and then we already know Sean's got the stronger striking and the range and everything. So I mean, it's a pick 'em fight to me.
Yeah, have you been impressed with what Sean's been able to do? Because if you look at where he came from the start of his career, right? People just kind of saw him as a guy that was, an attraction more so than someone that could potentially be a champion. And now he's beaten the best of the best from Aljo to Piotr Jan. I mean, he's shown everybody that he's on the roll of creating potentially one of the best runs with that when it comes to being a champion in that weight class in UFC history.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's definitely on course for that, and I mean he's for me, I like I like how he does it. He attacks the fighter. He doesn't attack the country, the girlfriend, and the religion. And so far, everything I see from him, yeah, he dresses his way. He does things his way, but at least he's keeping it to just the fighter, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. It's free game.
You know what else I love about it? I was actually having a look through Umar's record in the UFC, and it's like, we're supposed to fight this person, pulls out. We're supposed to fight this person, pulls out. Like, people don't want to fight Umar, right? And Sean
No,
O'Malley saw his performance and he was like excited about the idea of fighting Umar. He actually kind of compared it a little bit to Conor McGregor versus Khabib in a way. But I guess in a way it's similar, but obviously it's very different in a
it,
lot of ways as well. Like, how do you kind of see it? What did you think when you saw that
I see it
comparison?
like he sees it. I see it like he sees it. I see it as kind of a little Conor-esque, Habib. Not quite, but sort of. So, in other words, this is going to be, if it happens that way, it'll be a lot of attention. A lot of attention is going to be on this fight because of the parallels between them two. And Habib and Umar have been kind of doing a lot of things together almost at the same time. Their win streak in the UFC. When Habib was recognized when he fought Edson Barboza, and here Umar finally gets his shot. I mean, people are taking him serious when he fights Cory. So it's kind of very similar, and they're 28 years old at the same time they both were, and I nicknamed Umar Young Eagle. So there's a lot of similarities between both of them. It's very similar in their paths. So both undefeated, both rarely lose any rounds. But let's see what happens. The fight's going to happen, in my opinion, and I'm kind of trying to put the jujus out there that I'd like it for it to be in Abu Dhabi. So I think the next big show is in February in Abu Dhabi, and since September 13th is the spear between O'Malley, and Merab, I'm thinking, well, enough time. Well, hey, February is a good time to do it. I'm just throwing that out there.
Put it out there, Javier. I'd love to see it. And I don't want to discount Merab here. Obviously, he's got a huge chance of winning at UFC 306. But just for a bit of fun, how do you see this fight between Sean and Umar playing out? Obviously, Umar, a great wrestler, also has great striking too. We saw that in the Cory fight as well. Bit of an interesting one here, right? How do you think it plays out? And do you actually see Umar taking it to Sean on the feet as well here?
He outstruck, Cory. Look at the numbers. He outstruck him. So, say whatever you say. Most people were thinking that wasn't going to happen. Well, I knew it could happen. I've said it. I said Umar could outstrike him. But that I felt that where we were the biggest edge was the ground. But his defense on not being able to give Umar anything was very good. Also, Umar's got a really good ground, and Cory was able to survive and not take any damage on the ground. So, man, you got to give a lot of credit to Cory and his team for that. That was a good performance from them.
You think if Umar fights Sean, do you think the game plan is just to sort of put him in the positions that work for you guys? Or is it a situation where you want to maybe even beat him on the feet because Umar's shown how good he is in the striking area as well?
We're not afraid of anybody on the stand-up with Umar, and preferably we'll do what we can do. But let's see what Sean gives us. But if it is Sean, if it's Merab, it's a different game too, right? So let's see. I mean, Umar. The thing about Umar is, I think you can honestly say that he's like Islam. He can do it all. So he can do ground, stand-up, wrestling, you name it. He's well-rounded. So these kids, from Abdominop's gym are becoming super well-rounded in every area. And that's the plan with all of them. Almost all the fighters that they have, that I work with are all well-rounded. Now they don't lack anything really, to be honest with you.
Hey, speaking of Islam, man, I was bummed out to see that he's got this injury that has to deal with. I got to ask you, like, do you remember how he got that injury? It was in the fight with Dustin, right? It's a hand injury, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's a ligament, and he's still getting diagnosed by the doctors to see if, and, they say maybe give us some time off, then see what happens. He doesn't want to have surgery. I don't suggest surgery either. So let's see what happens, and he just got through finishing a vacation in the Maldives, so he went to the Maldives, had a good vacation, caught a big old giant fish. I'm jealous because when I went there, I just got what I caught was sick. I got sick. He got a big giant fish.
Do you remember when? So was it in the fight with Dustin? Was it a specific exchange that you remember that he said, "Hey, coach, my hand is sore"? And was it something that you found out after the fight that his hand was injured, or did you know during the fight?
After the fight, I don't recall him saying anything to us, and he might have said something to Habib, but I don't recall, him saying anything. And then also too, he went his way right away after the fight, and I went my way right away after the fight. It's just like with Umar on this last fight. I got swift away going one way, Umar went the other way. I didn't even get to take a picture with the team. None of us did. Normally they take a team picture with the UFC photographer, and we didn't even get to do that this time. We all got shifted away because a lot of the guys had their airline flight reservations and they had to take off. So we all went our own way. So I haven't even spoken to Umar since that night after the victory. So someone told me he was limping after, and I can't assume him not limping only because he did take a couple good kicks from Cory.
That's insane. So half the guys find themselves on the plane basically like an hour after the fight. That's insane. But look, I hope you guys catch up soon, man, and I hope Umar's leg is good. But yeah, like you said, February would be a great time if he's healthy to
Yeah.
get this title shot. With Islam, I was speaking to Arman the other day. He was saying that the idea was to fight Islam in October. Now that he's got this injury, he's hoping the fight happens in December. From your perspective, do you think it's likely we see Islam fight again this year, or is it one of those situations where you just kind of have to make sure that he's 100% healthy and it's the right situation for him to return?
Well, we have to make sure he's healthy and it's the right situation. One thing Islam will not do, he's not going to fight injured. He will not. He'll fight anybody, whoever the UFC puts in front of him. But one thing he's not going to do is sacrifice his health to go and lose his title because he didn't fight when he was ready. He's going to have to be ready. He's going to have to prepare properly because he's a professional. And look, when you're the world champion, you better make sure what got you there is what keeps you there. Staying healthy, and being smart with your body. And that's what Islam's going to do. He's going to listen to his body. He's going to listen to Khabib. He's going to listen to me. He's going to listen to his other two coaches, Magomed and Saif. He's going to listen to him, Saif Safullah. He's going to listen to all the guys. He's going to listen. That's what he does. He's just very, very good at listening to his coaches and his body. So Islam is fantastic at that. And, like I always say, we don't need to plan a strategy with him. We can just tell him what to do and change it as we go because he's so well-rounded.
Yeah, number one pound for pound, man. He's unbelievable. I gotta find out from you. How do you feel about Arman being the next challenge for you guys? Like, I'm guessing it's probably going to be Arman next, right?
Yeah, I would think he's the one that deserves it based on the rankings and what he's done. That's what I would like to see. But because that's who deserves it. But it's what I think. It's the UFC may throw in Max. Who knows? I don't know what they're gonna do. But if you're asking me who I think deserves the next shot at lightweight, I think it's Arman. And I think that's who I'd like to face. But Islam. I mean, obviously we were looking at the welterweight title, but now that Belal won that title, there's absolutely no way that I believe that fight will ever happen now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Take me into that, man. Obviously, wow, what a performance from Belal. You must have been really proud to see him pull that off against Leon Edwards. Like, what was your? Did you watch that fight with the guys as it was happening? What was your reaction as you saw him round by round clinch this title?
Didn't watch it because remember I was in Dubai and it's too early and I need my sleep. So,
Yeah.
I wake up to a big scream like yeah, like I was shocked because honestly speaking, based on I didn't see their first fight, and I didn't see anything. From what I was told, everybody was telling me that Bilal was not doing so well the first fight when he got eye poked.
Mm.
But the one determination that Bilal had that no one encountered on is his love for his country, his love for his people, and the motivation for him to prove everybody wrong, and how they made him wait for so long. It's almost like Khabib. Remember, same thing. All that 10 fight win streak before they gave him an opportunity. Bilal was in the same boat, and he wanted to prove to everybody that I'm the guy. You guys keep avoiding me. I keep knocking him down, and he kept his focus. I'm so proud of him. And a lot of people, alluded to the fact that it's because of Khabib. And well, what about his coaches? What about Lou? What about his other coach? Mike Valley. What about them? I mean, they were with him through this whole time. So to me, it isn't anything but other than what they did as coaching staff. Because Khabib only put like maybe a week, 2 weeks to help him on this one, and the rest he spent with his coaches. So to me, I don't like the narrative when they make it look like Khabib made the big difference when, yeah, he helped them, but his coaches made the difference. And me, I can't say very much because I wasn't part of helping him like that, like Khabib did. I would talk to him and I would say things, like a friend would, but not a coach. So I can't put myself in. I'm Belal's coach. Hell no, I'm not his coach. He's got Mike Valley and he's got other great guys with him. Those are his coaches. But he's with us. He's like a teammate with us for sure.
That's right, Coach. Congratulations, Belal. You know who else is with us here at Submission Radio, who's a part of the team, who makes sure our balls are smooth? Our friends at MANSCAPED. That's right. Our friends at MANSCAPED have us sorted at Submission Radio, making sure that the show keeps going, but also bringing smoothness to your balls. Get 20% off now with the code word submission and free shipping. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, the Beard Hedger, two absolute musts when it comes to your grooming needs. MANSCAPED has you sorted with its LED light, its waterproof features, and the fact that one charge takes you a really, really long time. Whether it's your balls or your body hair or your beard, Manscaped always has you sorted. Make sure to jump on Manscaped today. You support Submission Radio when you use the code word submission, and you support yourself because you get 20% off and free shipping today. Don't bum yourself out. Get Manscaped today. But Coach, speaking of being bummed out, obviously Belal's win was incredible, but were you a little bit bummed out about the fact that this may be it for Islam fighting at welterweight?
I'm not bummed out at all because the reason for him winning that title was meant to be. I think God's will is strong, and I think the people in Palestine needed something like this to have some kind of little victory. It's sad. I'm a humanitarian type individual, and anytime I see children get hurt, I don't care on what side, what religion, what this. Children are children. They should be safe. They shouldn't be in harm's way. And for me, that's what it's about, humanity. And I don't think God intended us to hurt children. That's it. The innocence. They need to be protected, and that's all I'm for. I'm for the innocence to be protected. And in this case, this isn't happening. For the innocence there on both sides. I'm not talking about one side or the other. Innocence or innocence to me. That's the way it is. It isn't. That's me.
Great to see Belal have that moment at UFC 304, and it was an incredible performance. But yeah, speaking of Islam sort of moving up, he's not going to welterweight. But then I was on MMA Fighting, and I saw an article for the Morning Report. You were talking to, I think, Red Corner MMA, and you mentioned that maybe one day down the track, middleweight for Islam. He talked about how, like he's pound for pound. So this is a challenge, because as a pound for pound,
a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but take me into that a little bit, because I guess sometimes with these interviews things get kind of carried out, get a little bit out of control. Take me into that a little bit. Yeah.
They asked me then, since welterweight's probably out of the question, what I think about middleweight, and I said, well, that's a possibility, but Islam is a small guy, so he'd have to put on some muscle, if that was ever presented. He couldn't do it at the weight he's at now. That would be pretty tough. He'd have to put on some size to be able to go to 185. It can be done, but he'd have to put on some muscle in order for it to accomplish. But so the way I looked at it is we got one more title defense that he needs to do in the lightweight division to break the record of 3 to 4, so I think that should be the primary goal, because I think going to 185 is, oh man, that's a tough thing. I have to gain all that weight properly and everything for him to go up against guys like that. Not that his abilities isn't good enough. It's just that the weight would be an issue, and I think he knows it too. If you talk to Islam, he'd have to gain some muscle, not fat weight, just some muscle weight to be able to deal with those guys. And he can, but let's see what happens. But I think it's obvious for everybody that the UFC is going to offer, his next fight is going to be a title defense against who? It could be Arman, who knows? It may be Max Holloway, or who knows? You never know who it's going to be, but the obvious choice is Arman.
So have you and Islam spoken about this before? Like kind of joked around, hey, one day maybe middleweight. Like, what would that even look like? Have you guys kind of discussed that in the past?
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm saying, Islam said that middleweight would be kind of something, but he'd have to put on some muscle. So this is not just me. This is Islam thinking the same thing. That yeah, he did. If it did ever come through, he. So it's really not ideally something that we're really looking at, but it is something that was discussed. But it would be he'd have to put on some size if that was ever to happen.
Because if you do think about it, right, what's more impressive than going from lightweight and winning the belt to welterweight? That's jumping over welterweight, right? And then getting
Yeah,
this, like, what do you think that would say if you? I'm we have to go through the record books and really look through it when it comes to MMA. But what do you think it would say to people for Islam's legacy if he was able to pull something so huge off and get something like that across the
if
line?
he was able to pull something like that off, if that ever was materialized and he did pull it off, that would put him in the top three pound for pound of all time.
Yeah, wow, that would be an incredible thing for his legacy. How do you think a fight between Islam and DDP would go if Islam did get the chance to put on the weight properly and sort of fill out to be more of a middleweight?
It's going to go really well because I mean he's the champ is has got good stand up, he's got good ground, and it's going to be one of those situations where it's going to be fought in all areas for sure. It's going to be fought in all areas. Whereas if he does lose his title to Izzy, which he very well could, if we have to fight Izzy, it's going to be a different type of fight. It's going to be more putting Izzy on the ground than it is stand up because I mean it's not easy to go out there and try to fight someone that's got that kind of kickboxing pedigree. It's a tough thing to do with such a great fighter as Izzy.
Yeah, man. Izzy's a great fighter. DDP's an exciting champion. Can't wait for this fight. And, me and Casper will be over there covering it live next week. So it's going to be really awesome. But as we wrap up, Javier, I just want to find out who are a couple of the guys next coming up from your gym. People need to keep an eye open for. You have a team full of killers out there right now ready to take over.
Two. Well, there's actually more than two, but two in particular that I'm really fond of is Muhammad Alarak, who's in the MENA. In the MENA League is in the semifinals, and the other one that I'm really high on, who's here now training with Usman Nurmagomedov for his fight September 7th in Bellator in San Diego, is Amru Magadov. He's man, Amru is something special, man. Those two, and then there's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch, but those two particular, I'm very high on both of those guys. I predict those two will be champions, Mohammed and Amru. And there's more, but those two for sure.
All right, Javier. Well, I appreciate you joining me after a long flight back home and looking forward to seeing what's next. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks. We'll see you soon.